Amazing how many videos you can get.
Yeah, that's through their agency, right? Yeah.
That's a very different between, I'm sorry, the Doritos with actually offering money versus, say, a Wikipedia, where you're not being paid, you're kind of doing it for almost a game mechanism kind of way.
Yeah. So I think your question was, who's doing crowdsourcing that doesn't think they're doing crowdsourcing?
Yeah.
Or is not labeled as such?
And I was thinking, like, outside the, thanks, like outside of, because crowdsourcing, obviously, any of these, whether it's crowdsourcing, whether it's location, people like to put things in boxes. Right. People say, this is crowdsourcing on this podium over here. But really, it's everywhere. So just from the perspective of, you know, whether it's enlightening people who aren't in crowdsourcing, are there companies out there that you're looking to as inspiration that maybe they don't even realize they're inspiring crowdsourcing?
I think open source software is also such a great example of crowdsourcing. It's like, you know, and the motivation point is really, really interesting as well. I don't know who's read Daniel Pink, Drive. It's a great book on motivation now. And I think a lot of the things you're seeing from open source to even Facebook to Wikipedia just shows that there are different motivations, which we've talked about a little bit here, behind what people do with their spare time and why they want to contribute to these platforms. So
and they're great models because they had to handle all the nerd fights before we did.
Yeah.
Is that what they call them? Nerd fights?
Yeah. I mean, you look at any company that was established before the book was written, right? Which was, you know, if he quoted them in the book, that means they were doing it before they called themselves a crowdsourcing company. Right. So iStockPhoto and you know, Wikipedia and all those companies.
But I think too, the broader thing is like the web is like a two-way media, right? So you know, it's read, write, and so like everything from Google Places, where local businesses are adding their own information to Google. And validating it is crowdsourcing, right? So
user reviews are a form of crowdsourcing. You know, TripAdvisor crowdsources the list of the best hotels in each city. Yelp crowdsources the best restaurants in each neighborhood.
We're seeing a really incredible growth in the use of crowdsourcing among nonprofits. Very successfully for a lot of reasons. You know, so like World Wildlife Foundation in Switzerland is crowdsourcing for a new biodiversity project within Switzerland, and University of Oxford did a crowdsourcing program to crowdsource ways to reduce maternal mortality in developing nations. So really, really cool stuff. And what's neat about it is that you don't need to incent those crowds. When you're connecting with them on an emotional level, something people feel very strongly about, you don't need any financial incentive at all. People will come and participate and collaborate just because they want to be part of something good. And so that's a really neat, very positive, very inspirational, you know, aspect of the crowdsourcing market.
And Kickstarter is a great example of a platform doing that, and microfinance with Kiva and people like that. So.
Well, and I think this goes back to my earlier point about where we're evolving. I mean, this has been escalating at a rapid rate, and this like desire of people to want to be involved in what's going on. We can communicate at levels that we never were able to communicate at before, and I think that's crowdsourcing's almost moving in itself along the same path as the opening of digital communication, and it's just it's changing what people can have a vote in and what people can have a say in. And I think the nonprofit is just such a great example because it's an excellent way of rallying people behind a cause. Brands can use that too, which I think most of us are probably doing in some form or another.
That's great.
Sure.
Go ahead, Epi.
Well, look at the My Starbucks idea, for example, or Adele's social innovation competition. All of these is like what really gave them all that insight that how to really serve better coffee and what is a new recipe that people want to hear. So all this is like people that just participate because they just want to see the recipe in a Starbucks next day or next month or whatever. So that's
great. How many people here actually worked at an agency before getting involved in the crowdsourcing model? Raise your hands.
Not really.
One and a half. I was just counting.
Coming in as a half. Well, that's interesting. Because this is an advertising, crowdsourcing, panel, and everybody has started an agency, more or less, to work within this space.
Well, our two partners are both ad agency backgrounds, so I'm the only oddball. Gotta have one.
I'm not sure. That's telling, because I do think the traditional agency model is dead.
Yeah.
And I think the reason it's dead is because it was set up to help us facilitate developing our brands and our monikers without really having interaction with the consumer. I talk to insights people all the time. Oh, we listen to our consumer. We do focus groups. I'm like, wow, that's great. It is amazing now as a brand. Do I really need somebody between me and my consumer helping me figure it out? Elmer's is a classic example of a brand that we really feel like is a client that is really embracing this, where they're starting to have great conversations with their community platform in Collective Bias about, gosh, why isn't this X-Acto product selling at Walmart? And the crafters instantly told them it was an X-Acto cutting board. They instantly told them, can't see it. It's in a box. I mean, it seems pretty simple. I want to touch it. I want to feel it. Think about the ability to bring the consumer's voice into your brand every day. Really make them an owner of all of the process. And it's like marketers are like terrified. Oh my God, we're talking to consumers. No, I mean it's their brand anyway, right?
It's about incentive, right? So obviously, well, not with the exception maybe of VNS, but there is no incentive for people at an agency or agencies themselves to do this. I mean, I've heard many tales of people trying to create something that looked like one of these businesses with inside, an Omnicom or WP, one of the big conglomerates, and it getting shut down because you will not build a nuclear warhead in the middle of this organization. and I think of our business, it was born out of frustration of us trying to break into actually Hollywood and it not working, and talking to somebody who was familiar with crowdsourcing and us saying, yeah, we see all this latent talent out there and that makes sense, and maybe we can create something to put them to work, and it can be a mechanism for storytelling, which was our motivation, and we had an incentive to go do that. So yeah, they're not, we're disintermediating something or disrupting something that was never going to be created, because they're gonna draw every dollar out of it, and they'll either evolve and continue or they won't.
And to Rob's point, it's go ahead. To Rob's point,
for once I was being quiet.
It's literally it's something that we're here because we want to change things like how they're done and how they're done today, and we're doing this because we're believing. If we're not believing in this, we won't be doing here, and that's why this is like pushing. But we got a long way to go. But thank God to the technologies that are available today, we're able to move faster and make this thing happen. So.
And James and I were discussing this. I'm not being quiet now. James and I were discussing this on the way over, actually, and I think certainly we both work with ad agencies, and everyone we pretty much hire has come from an ad agency, because I think there's a lot to be taken into account. We're building on this. We're not like necessarily blowing up what's come before us, but certainly I think we're creating an evolution. But it's important not to forget that there's a lot of good that's come before us. There's a lot of good in ad agencies, and there's a lot of value though that we can bring to the table, certainly by opening up that voice and more voices and bringing them into the conversation.
Yeah, and I think like the ad agency is dead, that kind of TechCrunch headline, really is kind of, it's tilting at windmills. There's not a lot of, it makes great copy, but that's about it. And if we look at, the size of any of our companies, they're dwarfed by any ad agency that's, along Madison Avenue or anything like that. So I think we're pretty premature to say ad agencies are dead. Sure. But they're evolving, and they're struggling to evolve right now, and the time and materials building model is under tremendous stress.
It definitely an evolution. I mean, in fact, I'd argue whether it ever die completely, because I think the key aspect of an agency is they provide expertise and services and guidance to the clients, because our clients don't know what they want yet. Really, they don't know how to do it. Yeah. So we have to provide services. You started off with a question like, does anybody provide services? I would argue that we have to provide services, because if we just provide a bunch of technology in a crowd to our clients, they're going to fail on their own. So we have to give them the guidance, the expertise. And I don't necessarily see that as ever going away, because we're getting better at what we do. We're understanding crowds better. We're understanding how to motivate them. We're understanding how to ask questions better, all of that. And so we're always going to be 2 or 3 steps out in front of our clients. We're always going to be better at it. So they'll always look to us for the service. So the agency model is just evolving.
To that evolution, I mean, I think this is going to sound so sort of simplistic, but when you take the ad agency world, which was creating content in a bubble, and then you overlay the world that we've been living in the last 10 years, where everybody has a voice, this was a natural progression, and you're going to hit eventually, in my opinion, an equilibrium. I've seen it within ourselves when we first sort of redesigned our model to say we're just going to do video, and then they were like, but can you distribute it for us too? And you're like, oh, okay, fine, we'll distribute it for you. Or it's, and you see yourself sort of expanding to where, and the agencies are having to sort of collapse, and there will be some sort of equilibrium. Where that ends up, who knows? But to your point, the ad agency as we have known them, the Mad Men ad agency, is dead. I get that. But it is, there's no way that some of these like Leo Burnett's are just going to disappear and fall off the face of the earth. They do these grandiose projects that we personally, I mean, Victors and Spoils being maybe the exception, because you guys really are a true ad agency. I mean, some of the stuff you guys have done.
But even for us, we can't be full service to the degree that Leo can, or any other one of those great, agencies that are out there. But yeah, evolution, I think, is a...
I'd look just very tellingly at the multiple of Google versus the multiple of the agencies. Yeah. Yeah. And I would be willing to bet a stake that that process is going to continue. Who serves more video today, the national networks or YouTube?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
so
absolutely on that level, yeah, without doubt. But I think that the agencies are going to. There's a lot of smart people in ad agencies. I mean, let's not forget this. And as smart as we all are, they're going to evolve as well, and they're aware of what's coming.
Yeah. We're not mad at them. Like to hire a lot of them. That'd be great.
At considerably reduced rates.
but I think what's overlooked in that is the challenge of doing advertising creative or advertising execution or any of that kind of stuff, or advertising campaigns, is a tremendously hard, complicated challenge that involves lots of people and lots of steps in process and lots of different nuances and everything like that. And that doesn't go away from being managed by people with a great feel for it and talent and experience and everything like that. And when you reduce it down to really simple tasks, a platform works really well. And I think we've seen that with 99 Designs, where, the brief is really tight, people can work against that, it's very specific deliverables and stuff like that, and that scales wonderfully. And that's where you get like Google type multiples. Mm-hmm. But where it's, time, materials, and services business, you won't get the same multiples. But I don't think the business necessarily changes, right? It may work in different platforms and things like that, but it's a complex process.
Right. It's like there's a Walmart, but there's still a deli just around the corner from here. It's a different market. It's going to serve different needs.
Well, even within our industry. I mean, we keep saying this. It's kind of like maybe it's us just all trying to get along, but like, you're different from me. But I still like it. But I mean, there is sort of a hierarchy of I think VNS is a perfect example, just because you came out of the gate saying like, we are an agency based on crowdsourcing. Whereas I think to the sort of extreme, and don't get me wrong, I would love for people just to come on our site and be like, I want a video, here's $20,000. But it is, like the platform, the platform is sort of the other extreme, where it's self-serve and there is that whole hierarchy of in between.
Talking about the evolution of agencies, I want to hear a little prognostication. What's going to happen in 5 to 10 years? Are the agencies?
Thank you. So I want to hear a little prognostication. In 5 or 10 years, are the agencies going to be evolving to include this social layer that we're seeing? The last comment about, over the last 10 years, are the agencies going to be buying guys like you? Are we going to see them merging in kind of like a traditional agency on one side, and then like some kind of crowdsourcing larger agencies on another side? Where are we going to be?